Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's Amy from So Let's Be Quilty Studio here in cloudy Pentwater, Michigan. We had a nice bit of rain. We needed it so badly. So it was just lovely to hear the rain yesterday. It was magical. So today's Wednesday. I'm going to give you an update on one little thing product-wise, but then I have some frequently asked questions for people who are doing all sorts of things. So we have questions for, vinyl and what is fussy cutting. So we're kind of going to dive into that a little bit and talk about it. And then for my So Let's Make a Bag people, we're going to show you a couple of tips and tricks for the bag this quarter, which is called Back to ... So we're going to kind of show you about that, because when I talk about certain things, I want you to really understand what I'm talking about. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, please ask a question, because I'm happy to answer any questions, and I love to give tips and tricks. So there you go. So last week we showed you Art Gallery Fabrics, Christmas at the Cabin, I believe it was called, Christmas at the Cabin. And so beautiful. So Mark is going to, at some point, pan up and show you. Oh, he's going to do it right now. So they sent us a digital panel, which is brilliant. It is not the size of the quilt, however. So they send us these digital panels so that as a shop owner, I can get it quilted, get it up, and up a little bit. There you go. So I can get it up and show you what that quilt looks like. So I sent it home with my lovely quilt helper and her mother, who's a good friend of mine. And so I sent them home with the backing per the quilt pattern that we cut out for. And she was like, she brought it back and she said, wow, there's so much extra backing material. And then we realized that they're sending us this digital panel so we can see what it looks like, but it's not to scale. So the actual quilt will be 80 inches by 80 inches, which is a good size quilt. It's called 'Tis the Season. I'm trying not to crinkle. So it's $130. It's 80 by 80. The kit includes everything to make the quilt and the specialty binding fabric that Art Gallery is doing right now, which is amazing. It's on the quilt in the back. Maybe Mark will get up there and do like seeing your finger and fingers again. So the binding has these little trucks on one side, and then on the other side is little candies, little peppermint candies. Can you see it? Mm-hmm. And then, so that was the side that they chose. Try not to crinkle. But there is another side that has the candy canes and the holly. So you can choose your own adventure. You can decide which one you want to do. So those are live on the website. They're $130. Everything you need for the quilt plus the binding. And it's half square triangles. I think probably putting it together would go together pretty quickly if you're like advanced, beginner, intermediate kind of quilter. And he's going to take it away so I don't touch it and crinkle it. So, right? So we're doing a couple of tutorials today. If I have a dramatic pause in between, Mark is trying to have a moment to break them up into individual things so we kind of understand. One more thing, booklet pouch. We're doing that as a class. It's on the website. So this is the one that is by Anila Hoy. And it is this is the big one. I need to show you the small one too. Maybe we'll do that next week. So you open it up and it has 4 pages that have vinyl. And we're going to talk about vinyl in a minute, so I kind of wanted to bring this out to show you. So this is the Sparkle Glitter Star Vinyl, which j'adore. It's so good. So we're doing this booklet pouch is great for, I mean, you could use this for so many things. So this little booklet pouch, the pattern comes in 2 sizes. This is a big one, and there's a small one that actually fits the small Aurifil thread. So if you're using it for a thread organizer, if I can speak today, then that would work just perfectly. So, so when I first started making bags, I was working with all sorts of vinyl, and I kind of had to learn a bunch of things about vinyl that what was really interesting. So the biggest teacher I had of vinyl was by Annie's, because their vinyl is lovely. So so we're going to talk about, am I doing a pause? I need to do a pause.
Well, just, there you go.
Okay. All right, so we are going to talk about vinyl. So, and working with vinyl. So, let me put it up there. So that would help me read it, wouldn't it? Okay. So, vinyl comes in gauges. So,
tip this so they can see what you're doing.
Okay. So I'm going to hold up some things, and I'm going to have you tip it. So vinyl comes in gauges, meaning that when you buy vinyl, if you buy it from a quilt store or you buy it from a craft store, you'll look on the edge and it'll tell you what gauge it is. So the bigger the number, the thicker the vinyl. So if it's 8 gauge vinyl, it's going to be quite thin. If it is 16 gauge vinyl, that is probably the thickest I would use for bag making. 20 gauge vinyl is quite hard to work with, and it doesn't turn very easily, so it's going to be really quite difficult to work with. Also, sewing with 20 gauge vinyl is a really fun deal, because it's thick and it's sticky, and it can cause many bad words to come out of your mouth. So first thing we need to learn about is gauge. So the one that I use most often is by Annie, and it's premium clear vinyl. It is 16 gauge. I have a little sample of it out. She puts hers on like a cling, so it has, instead of having tissue, it has cling to it. Makes it much easier to cut into pieces. I have found that this vinyl, I don't necessarily need to use a like tissue paper or a Teflon foot. It actually goes quite well without those. So, but if you have a Teflon foot for your machine, I recommend putting it on, especially when you're first working with vinyl. It really helps go through the vinyl and not stick to it, which causes your machine to either give you really small stitches or really big stitches. So the other thing I recommend is getting a Microtex needle. Not focusing.
There you go.
Microtex needle. My favorite needle, and this is just personal preference, is the Schmetz chrome needles. And when I'm working with vinyl, I just put these needles in and go for it. So the other thing you need to think about when you're working with vinyl is, because it is a thicker material and stiffer, take your stitch length up from 2.5 to 3.0 or 3.5, depending on how many layers you're going through. This will help your machine go through the vinyl quite easily. Hey, Sue. Good morning, Darkus and Donna. Okay, so I have a couple of vinyls that I carry in the shop. I have some So Hungry Hippie vinyl. I also have vinyl from another company. I'm trying to think of what the name of the company is. Anyway, and then we do the By Annie vinyl. So the So Hungry Hippie vinyl, I had some out of the package, but it's a printed vinyl, and that's really popular nowadays. I'm trying to get it so wait, in front of my face, so maybe it focuses on that. So this vinyl is a clear vinyl with printing on it. Super popular nowadays. Her vinyl is 12 gauge, which is a bit thinner than the by Annie's. So, so just remember to put on your Teflon foot. The hack for if you don't have a Teflon foot is to just take a piece of clear Scotch tape and tape it to the bottom of a regular foot and trim it so there's not, tape hanging on the other side. And that will help your vinyl not stick to the vinyl as it's going through. You can use a piece of tissue also, and then just tear it away when you're done. But if you're working with the by Annie vinyl, I've found that it's very forgiving. So those are my tips for the working with vinyl. Just go slow, take your time, and remember to use, if you use clips, don't have the clips in your vinyl for a super long time. They will start to cause dents. So you can either use washi tape or use the clips if you're working on it right there and then. If you're going to have to go away and come back, I would probably take some of the clips out or make sure that they're in your seam allowance so you don't see the little dents that it makes. So those are my tips for working with vinyl. I'm going to give those to the hubster. We're going to do a dramatic pause. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to talk about fussy cutting. So when I talk about fussy cutting, what am I talking about? So fussy cutting is we're gonna use the tabby road as an example. So the tabby road has a specific motif on it, and when you're working with this, sometimes you want that motif to show up in a certain place on your project. So that is what we talk about when we talk about fussy cutting. We are trying to cut our piece of material so that the motif is ending up where we want it to be. So so I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna fold this in half and move this, and then I'm gonna have Mark so I'm gonna show some things that I fussy cut and why I did it. So, so the first one I'm going to show you is, this was part of So Let's Make a Bag. This is the Tiffany bag from Sally Tomato. Super cute bag, but I chose to use the Rifle Paper Company. I think it was called Adventureland, or yeah. So this was a super popular one, but I wanted Alice to be right there in between my handles. So I measured out where that might be, and I fussy cut her so she ended up right in the center. I also did that on my ends. So I had Alice on one side and her teapot and teacup on the other. And then I fussy cut, so I had the rabbit, and what was the other thing that was in there? I think it was just the rabbit that I wanted on there. So that was that. This is fussy cutting, so my skates ended up, so I got to see all the skates. So I fussy cut those. So so I wasn't ending up, like you can see at the top that there's bottom of the wheels. So I was just intentional about where I cut that strip. So I made sure that I could get.
So it's in focus.
Got it. So made sure I can get the skates in there. This was a big one for fussy cutting. I'll bring in the quilt. I just need to finish 2 more rows on it, but I'll bring in the quilt that was for Nightshade. Is that focused?
Yep.
So I fussy cut the witches so they ended up right in the center of that pocket. And then I knew that pocket, I would see more of them on that side. So I moved this one down just a skosh. So when when the flap came down, I'd still be able to see the witch I wanted to see. So that's a fussy cut. The last one is was this quarter's box. So I just fussy cut it. So I wanted 2 kitties showing up on each pocket. So I just cut it knowing, and this is where you need to read your directions. So for By Annie, she often makes her pieces a bit bigger and then she cuts them down. So pay attention to the final cut size of what it's going to be. And this is a reason why to read your directions, because this ended up being angled a bit. So it's angled. So you want to make sure that where you're cutting, if you don't want to cut off part of his tail or part of his cute little face. So just pay attention to the final size that some of the things are going to be. And it makes you kind of slow down a little bit and pay attention. So this one, we're going to show you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can do it upside down. I'm a professional. Okay. So we're going to talk about if you are a So Let's Make a Bag person, we are doing this rail fence tote. And you end up with, so we're using these 5-inch squares. We're going to talk about those in a minute. But for the people who had Tabby Road, I gave each of you an extra fat quarter of the kitties. So the smaller the large, you can choose which one you want to use. I use the small ones on the out to lunch, and then I was thinking maybe the larger ones might be cute to fussy cut some things and put them. So you would like take up one of these spaces that has all of the. Is that, yeah. So let's show the actual thing. How about that? So this is the rail fence tote. So out of my 5-inch squares, I've made these little strip sets and then trim them down and then attach them all together. So for Tabby Road, I thought it might be cute to take one of these every so often and put like a little kitty face in there. So what I was proposing that you do is fussy cut your fat quarter however you would like it. And it's a 3.5-inch square. So I have a 4.5-inch ruler. I should have brought the lighted one. It would have been so much easier. Darn it. So there are a couple of ways that you can fussy cut. There is where you're just using your ruler. Is that a good one to do? Okay. You're just using your ruler and you're figuring out, how much of that kitty I can get in there. So this 3.5 is right here and right here. So if I kind of use my center diagonal and use that to kind of make sure I'm staying like level, because I'm putting it through the center of the motif. And then I kind of you're going to cut off a 1/4 inch when you put the pieces together. So you kind of say, do I want an ear or do I want a foot? I think I want to be able to see all of his ears. So you can either take your rotary cutter and start cutting, or I'm going to try and put a line in here so you can kind of see. I'm using a removable pen so that if I don't like where it is, I can take it over to the iron and then take it away. So there is the one side, there's the other side, and then I'm going to put my 3.5-inch mark right on these corners. I'm going to put another mark right there. And then this one, I'm going to put the 3.5 on the bottom and the 3.5 on the side. I'm going to move it over a little so I can attach those a little bit better. So now I see what I'm going to see. And if you can, yeah, you can see all the marks. So that is where I'm going to, and then I have this really cute little kitty face that's going to end up right in the middle of one of my squares. So one of these squares is going to end up being the kitty. So that is how we fussy cut, and that's kind of why everybody who got the Tabby Road got an extra fat quarter of the cats. So you could go in and like insert a couple of kitties in your bag. And it is an extra fat quarter, so if you decide not to, then you can just hoard the fat quarter. So totally up to you. As I say, it's kind of a choose your own adventure. So that is that. And then the other thing I get asked a bit is when we are cutting a, he just got it all correct.
I think they can see.
All right. So this, everybody calls them something different. We know them as charms. They are 5-inch.
Charm packs, 5-inch squares.
5-inch squares. Some people call them not a dessert roll. Anyway, people have different names for them. So often they come with these pinked edges, so you can see. So they're all pinked, and that is so that they don't unravel super easily. But a lot of people say when they go to cut these, which we are going to do in the rail fence tote, where does the 5-inch start? So what I tell people is that if you line up the peaks of your pinked edge on a line on your cutting mat, you'll see that it kind of on some of them are accurate, some of them are not so much. So test yours, because you're going to need 4 even pieces out of this. So I find it easier to line up one peaked edge on a line and then take my ruler and I am going to trim the other edge so I have a nice straight edge on the other side. So I'm making sure I still have 5 inches. I'm taking off the stressful bit, which is the part where we don't know where we're measuring. And then when I cut these to the correct size, I have a straight edge to cut them on. So that is the easiest way to take away the stress of not knowing where your pinked edge is. I kind of take out my squares and I make sure that they're a little over 5 inches before I start cutting. So if I get to this edge, I know that the peak of this is where I want to be, like the flat edge of my 1/4 inch. So as I am using my 1/4 inch foot, I am making sure I'm riding along the peak of that pinked edge on that one edge. But all the other will be square, and then it will be less stressful for everyone. So that is that's my tip for that. I told you about the class that's coming up. We have the Firefly tote coming up on Friday. Oh, we are going to do something with that. So let's see. So the last thing we are going to talk about, I need to move this here, right there. All right, so in your box, you got a 1-yard piece of soft and stable, and you're using it for 2 projects. You're using it for the rail fence tote. You're using it for the rail fence tote, and you're using it for the out to lunch with the By Annie. So it's a large piece. This is quite generous. So I don't know if you can see. Can you see the marks I made on there?
So like right, you can kind of track them if you there.
So yeah, so you have one line that's right here. And that is your mark for your rail fence tote.
Hold up, that's it. Yeah. Okay.
And then the other three that are down the center, I need to sneeze. Pardon me. All right. So the center is the three pieces that you need for the out to lunch. And if you can see, all of this on this side, all of this that's folded right here is all this extra stuff. So you can use that for other little projects. So you have plenty of soft and stable for both projects. If you are doing one of the, if you guys are doing one of the Tula Pinks, your pockets are a different motif than your side pieces. So there is a supplemental, an addendum that is in your box. So make sure you read that. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. But you're going to be cutting out your pockets separately. And then the cutting instructions are in your addendum for that. So please check that out. And I think that was all we had. Did we end up doing 4 tutorials in a very fast amount of time? If you have questions, please let me know. Please put them in the comments and we will make sure to get back to you. There is a Sew Let's Make a Bag sew day and it's coming up. It is
Sometime in the future.
It's in October, I'm sure. He's going to check for us while we're online. So the October 5th is a Saturday. It's the Sew Let's Make a Bag Day. If you're a member of the subscription box and you want to come in and work on your bags, any of the bags, and ask questions, please come on in. Please sign up so I know you're coming so we have a seat for you. Bring a snack because you're going to be here all day. And it's a super fun, relaxed day. If you have any specific questions that you need me to answer for you that day, if you want to tell me ahead of time so I'm a little prepared, because sometimes people are asking about 5 different projects in one session. So if I have a little bit of a heads up, that means that I can make sure that I am prepared for your questions. So have a fantastic Wednesday. And Mark will be editing and putting the tips and tricks on the Sew Let's Be Quilty YouTube channel. So if you're a Sew Let's Make a Bag member, go there and you can pick those up. And he will have the title with the box it was in the title, so you can find them easily. Yep. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Have a fantastic Wednesday, and we'll see you next week.